Namaste. My name is Neelima. Welcome to Reflections Along the Way podcast, where you will be listening to reflections from experiences and learnings along my life's journey. Today, I'm speaking to a really special person in my life, and I'm honored that he decided to join me in this conversation. I consider him to be my first spiritual guru who has shown me how to think a little bit differently to reach a point of acceptance and happiness when I was kind of lost, at a point where I was confused about a lot of things and where I had no clarity on what I should be doing with my life. Hi, David. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's really an honor to have you. And I feel this a lot of times in my life where I'm very grateful that both our paths crossed in our journey
Yeah,
because
for me too, actually. It's I think every time I've interacted with you, I felt like there's so much more one could share. It felt right. Very happy to get back in touch with you again.
absolutely and wonderful you feel the same way because you really changed the course of my life, actually, in a big way. Maybe I was ready at that time to kind of reflect on stuff, or maybe I was kind of wanting that time for myself to reflect or whatever, but you came into my life at the exact time. And I know that as soon as I saw you, it kind of felt like you were this man of wisdom, calm and, stoic, and like you're not reacting too much. I've not seen
Uh,
many people like that. And I kind of got that vibe from you. And besides all the other interactions, I think like at some point I kind of reached out to you because I was trying to explore myself and figure out who I am and more about
right.
myself. And then I was like, somehow I felt like you were this Buddhist. I don't know why I felt that. I really don't know. But I said, can you recommend some books in regards to Buddhism
I
or
remember that was
that?
one of the first conversations, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I,
yeah,
I think then you said, like, let's kind of interact. And we started exchanging emails. And then I realized my instinct or intuition, whatever you want to call, was right about you. It's really surprising. If I think back, I feel so amazed that it just happened the way it did. And I actually talk about you to a lot of people over the years. When people ask me, how I got into all this stuff about spirituality and all, I always tell them, my first guru is this person named David. I really did feel that way. And I don't know if you remember, I was kind of astonished by every statement you said at that time. I'm like, what? Nobody has ever said that to me before. How does one, like you said, simple, they sounded very simple, like, let go, be kind to others. And I'm like, how does one let go? How can one be kind to others if they are very rude to you? Those concepts, they sounded very nice, but practically I had no clue how to get there. I was so confused. I was really in a horrible place at that time, like internally. I must have seemed very happy and nice externally, but internally I was a mess.
right. I mean, I was actually saying things to you which I was incidentally telling myself.
Mm.
So I was also going through like a lot of changes, trying to figure out many things, and I think I saw the business you built, and it was fantastic. It was a place you could just go and spend hours exploring things, and they were all curated by you. You made some of the stuff, and you were doing something very different from. I mean, Hyderabad is a lot of noise, and a lot of loudness. I think the loudness gets to you. The two businesses I liked. Always coming to your store, and there's another one called Hyderabad Goes Green. I don't know
Mhm.
if you.
Yeah, I've heard about
I just love. There's a different energy about these places. I was astonished that this is like a very different space somebody has created, and it is there, and it is just like a very refreshing experience. And then we started talking, and then we became co-owners,
it. Yeah.
and that was a great experience. But then I think I got to know that maybe you and me are probably going through similar kind of, if I'm okay to use the word, pains in the lives. We're kind of struggling with something. So I think it was good to share. Most of what I was telling you was actually what I was also telling myself at that time.
But you were telling very deep stuff which I did not understand properly at the time. It felt like I understood, but then if I read again, I'm like, what is he talking about? So I would not understand it completely. So you probably had it figured out a little more than I did at that time.
Figure out is a very, I don't think I've figured out anything yet. It's like, it's practice. You know it for some time. Like even today, I'm sure you also know, during the day, you'll feel like you're just there and you kind of understand everything.
Yeah.
But then you lose it.
Yes.
So the practice is to get back to that again, because it's never constant. Life is very spiky.
Yes.
You get, like, if you look at focus or meditation or Zen, you get it and then you lose it. You get it and then you lose it, but you keep going like that. It's spiky, and that's how you progress.
Yeah.
So somebody was saying last month, how a lot of parents or teachers kind of ask their children to focus, concentrate. There's a movie called the Tare Zameen Par. I think the mother tells the child, concentrate, beta, concentrate. Nobody teaches them how. So I think that's essentially what that would be like a beginning of a great spiritual journey. I think learning to concentrate, learning to stay there for longer. Because left to yourself, you will keep losing the focus and it'll spike.
Yeah. Coincidentally, you mentioned focus, and I was just thinking about it this today. And because I've learned certain things in these last 10, 11 years, like I always have this urge to share it with others, and that is part of what I do right now. Primary part of Bluishmuse, which I do, is it started out as a blog, and it started out when I was doodling. And what the initial things I learned when I was doodling was to be having that ability to focus. For anyone to grow and evolve, I think only when we are able to meditate. Meditation is nothing but being able to focus on that greater knowledge, right? Which kind of makes you evolve. And if we do not know how to focus on anything, if we don't develop that skill, it's a developed skill, basically, like any other skill. If we practice, I think we can get there. And I think surprisingly, doodling those patterns is what helped me tremendously in terms of learning how to focus. It was just one pattern or two patterns. I don't know why I got into it. I just started loving it. And then while I was doodling, I would think of a certain topic, and somehow this ability got developed where I could focus on that topic for a particular period of time without getting deviated, forgetting everything else. That's what makes me keep wanting to do that again and again and again. And it's helped me a lot while studying. Like as I shared with you, I studied Vedanta. I did this Vedanta foundation Vedanta course, and I'm studying advanced Vedanta now. And I want to continue studying, reflecting, and eventually, hopefully, get into a regular practice of meditating. But this has helped me tremendously. Whenever I'm studying, I start like practicing, because then that is what helps me focus on that particular topic so that I can reflect on it. And I was thinking of starting like a community, creating together, like starting drawing patterns. And I was thinking of that today only, actually.
That's a fantastic idea. So this is very beautiful. So doodling is like your mantra. That's how you get started into anything. It's how you say, okay, I have my mind, I have my body, and this is the form I'm doing. So we're all one. Now let's start the thing we want to start. That's fantastic.
And also, like, I think you probably experience this too, because you doodle. I have your beautiful artwork in my house of the monk on the mountain, I think.
Oh, the mountain monk. Yes, yes.
Mountain monk. Yeah, I have it. I brought it over here from India also. Like, it's amazing to see that on paper, right? Like nothing was there before, and something made you want to create that. So it's a nice feeling at the end of it.
And it's amazing to see it later, but when you're actually doing it, you forget yourself.
Yeah.
Your mind stops chattering.
Mm-hmm.
There is no chaos. You are focused.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the most beautiful thing. I have browsing your site, and some of those things are just quite spectacular.
Oh,
And I
thank
can
you.
imagine the amount of patience and concentration that goes into it, plus the artistry, of course. But artistry is a matter of culture,
Yeah.
which is probably you get it much more easily compared to, I think, the concentration and focus to that thing. And it's quite evident. Zen doodles or what?
Zentangles are pretty
Zentangle.
common, actually. It's not something I invented. It is something invented by somebody else,
Okay. I
Zentangles.
saw
And
it first in your site, so I was like,
I
okay,
did not know that it was called Zentangle also when I started
right,
drawing patterns. Like
right.
maybe a year after I started, I stumbled on this word called Zentangle. I'm like, oh, this is exactly what I do. And that is, it's beautiful. Then the name was so beautiful. Oh, wow. It's a huge thing that people do.
Okay.
And it's very nice, actually. Very helpful, I think, to a lot of people. Not
So,
only focus, right? Like you said, even patience. It
yeah,
develops a lot of qualities that we
it
need
does.
to
Yeah.
develop.
I like the idea of you trying to form a community with people who draw or sketch, but not with
Yeah.
the intention of producing something perfect
Yeah.
or a replication, but
Yeah.
just like the Enzos, like the
Yes.
old Zen monks used to practice the
Mm-hmm.
Enzos. Just draw a circle, just draw a
Yeah.
circle, and I like that.
It'll be nice. I don't know. We'll see. It's just a thought that came today, and I said, you know what? Maybe because I was so I started this shop, right? Because I'm
Right,
creating, I said, you know what? Why don't I share that art, sharing the idea with which they were born
right,
out of, and then if people like them, they can have it in their homes, and that's one way of me putting that stuff and thought process out there. Somewhere along the line, I was getting too much into, when you have a shop and business, it's sometimes you get dragged into this, oh my
yeah,
god, am I selling, am I not selling, how do I sell more? You
right,
get distracted. I'm like,
right, right.
oh no, I like, I, of course, I'll be very happy if I sell products, that's no doubt, but I don't want the entire journey just to be about selling products. Then what happens is we don't create naturally,
True,
we create what we think will sell. And
true.
it's a different
I know
path.
it's very strange how everything seems to, if you don't pay attention to it, it
Mhm.
actually goes into that. Like for example, I mean, I think there are two kinds of chaos in the world. For just lack of better phrases, there's what I would call a natural chaos, which is I think how really the world works and the universe works. Everything is interconnected, and we call it chaos because we cannot read the patterns that it has. Something happens to us, something we see, we don't know why, because we can't connect the dots. At some later point, it makes sense. Okay, this happened because of that. This
Mm.
happened because of that. It's natural chaos, and everything is changing. So every little thing is always changing. So I'm calling it chaos because I don't have the ability to measure what's happening. The other kind of chaos is, I would say, the chaos of some kind of machinery which we have calculated and measured by ourselves. Because let us say, I mean, we wanted to do like architecture, mathematics, or business, or enterprise,
Mm.
or education.
Mm.
Like children join schools because they need to learn something, but very quickly it becomes about how much marks somebody scored,
Right.
and that's a different measurement, and
Mm.
that's chaotic for the natural mind.
Mm.
And at some point, I think a student realizes in school that it's not really about the knowledge; it's about the
Mm.
scores I get. Because I get better scores, better grades, I get to go to better college
Mm.
and do that, and etc. So it stops being about the knowledge. And later on, when you start to work, it's not about creation. It's about again how much money you make, what kind
Mm.
of stock options you have.
Right.
So it continues, and that's chaotic for the mind. So
Mm-hmm.
these two kinds of chaos are there, and we're always you use the word, very good word, distraction.
Mm-hmm.
When you I want to do a business because I want to create, I
Mm.
start doing the business, but then it becomes about sales.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So this happens at different points of everybody's life,
Mm-hmm.
um, because we stop believing that if we focus, let's say, purely on knowledge, that we
Mm.
will get good grades. Focus purely on creativity, we
Mm-hmm.
can make good sales. I think we
Yeah.
stop believing that, and this chaos actually hits us in so many ways because we see so many other people who didn't focus on that fail in their lives, and those examples become amplified in our minds, and we are also afraid. So all these metrics are actually fear driven. They are negative driven. They are, I don't want to get below so and so percentage. I don't want to make, I don't want to be the person in the party who doesn't have the fancy car. So it's like, it's a negative thing. I don't want to, rather than what I want to do this or I want to do that. So it becomes a very different equation. I think most of my life has been trying to not focus on the marks and the monies and the sales, but bring back my focus onto learning and to creation. Because naturally, I think human beings are meant to be creative beings. We're supposed to make things,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to make things for the joy of making them, and perhaps to some extent for the joy of making somebody else delighted, somebody else happy. So I try I think my focus of my meditation or spiritual endeavor is to see that I don't cross over into that time, into the metrics which are so popular. Yeah, I mean, this essentially is what I think is the chaos we are all trying to fight. On the contrary, I also want to tell myself that I don't want to be afraid to embrace the natural chaos, because I was born out of the natural chaos into a world which is naturally chaotic. So why should I be afraid of it? And essentially, I think an entry into business or into an artist life, or anybody who's even doing applying any kind of trade or employment or education, then essentially that. Can you embrace the natural chaos and not be afraid?
Yeah.
Because
True.
that's where your mind and your body, everything actually belongs. And it's not really chaos. It's just a pattern you've not been able to measure or see it.
Yeah. You've hit on a lot of things in that. I also saw the world very chaotic at one point. I could not understand, like you, I was rarely driven by money. I mean, yeah, money is very important. I'm not like undermining that at all. We all need to survive and all that. But somehow that was not the only thing which inspired me. There has to be something more which to satisfy me. And I was always in search of what it was. And that is the reason why there have been so many career shifts, because I was trying to figure out what it is that is satisfying me. And that is what led me to experiment on a lot of things. And I think what I have realized along the way is the world is only as chaotic as we are internally. If we are very chaotic inside, and we are very confused, we don't know answers to a lot of things, and the world seems that way as well. And we blame the world most of the times that the world has trained us to be this way, and we are just like all that things. But as I think we try to calm ourselves, figure out how to calm ourselves down by whatever practice it is that works for each one of us, then I think the world starts looking more orderly and beautiful also. I feel there is a beautiful order to the world in some way, to the creation. Everything is interconnected, and if certain thing happens to you, there is, like, you call it butterfly effect, whatever, because we are also connected. Sometimes it's because of things we have done ourselves, but since we are in an ecosystem, there's other things are also happening, and there is reason, there is order, I feel. Everything is connected, there is order, and there is a reason something happens the way it does. That's what I've learned to accept now, and I see that order now, which I wasn't able to a few years ago. And I was like, oh my God, what a mess this world is, to figure out how to not be chaotic within ourselves will automatically remove chaos from the world. As we see it, I feel, because the world is only what we perceive it. Every one of us sees the world differently. We don't see the world in the same way, I'm sure.
True.
Yeah, so I think that's what I've kind of accepted for now. And it's much more peaceful place to be in that way. Otherwise, you're always confused, right, about all the different things happening. Why is this happening only to me? Why is that? Why is it not happening to that person? I have been very honest and nice, but it's still happening to me. All those kind of confusions.
True. Yeah.
So I think that's one of the wonderful side effects of practicing spirituality that we can kind of feel that sense of hey, it's okay, it happened for a reason, and then we don't kind of like stick on to that. It happened,
Right.
and then we move on, and we can use that energy for something more positive rather than mulling
True. Yeah.
over why things haven't worked out the way they did
Worked
or
out
what.
the way. Right.
Yeah, but it's like it takes a while to figure that out.
Yeah, it does. And again, if you look at it, why? What do we compare that while with? How much should it be faster or slower?
It depends on each one of us,
Each
right? I mean, for
one of
one,
us,
it might
correct?
be just 5 minutes. For one, it'll
Correct.
be years, and for one, it won't probably happen in this lifetime.
True.
I think
Absolutely.
it's
So I mean to ask, like, in your Vedanta studies, are you also does it also have some Vedic maths and stuff?
what I am studying is pure philosophy, but
It's philosophy. Yeah.
the organization that I am studying from, which is Chinmaya Mission, they have
Right.
different courses. Like they have a foundation, Chinmaya International Foundation.
Uh-huh.
They offer a lot of other courses to
Okay.
basically whatever interests one to
Want to
explore and learn, right?
Right.
Whichever field interests them. But my area of interest is Vedanta. So I have taken up only studies related to that
Right.
philosophy because I was trying to understand. And it really helped me figure out a lot of things. So I would recommend everybody to study that as like a science. The core of it basically encourages you not to have blind belief on anything. It
Right.
encourages you to come to intellectual conclusion based on your analysis and reflection and all that. And then when we do that and we start seeing change in ourselves, then faith develops. Faith is different from belief.
Right.
I think belief is more like you don't know, but you believe in it. There's no strong hold to it. But faith, I think, comes from a point of understanding, and
Some kind of
even
conviction.
even though it's unknown, you still, because you have faith, it makes you work harder to find out what that is, right? Belief, I think, can be broken easily. Yeah. So it's helped me a lot. And I think before I got into Vedanta is very recent. I started studying only like 3 years ago, maybe, or 2 years ago. After I spoke to you, I read some Zen Buddhism books and I read Buddhism books. And I kind of started practicing some things. Buddhism, they have very clear principles, right? I mean, you practice not having expectations and like, so like I started practicing those and I'm like, I saw a lot of difference. Life was peaceful in a way, but then there was not that full satisfaction. Even though it was peaceful, it was not fulfilling. Like, what do I do with my time? What is the rest of life? Like those sort of things. And then I was again seeking like answers for that, like how you are at this point. Like you are trying to figure out, what do I do? I was that way a couple of years ago. And I was actually thinking of going around different spiritual, religious organizations in the city, figure things out. And somehow I stumbled on this. I wrote about it on one of my blogs. I think I stumbled on this in my mission, and one of the acharyas there was just starting this course, and I got inspired to join and just give it a chance and figure out.
Right.
I had, like you, I did not have very good opinion on religion at that time. And I was a little bit reluctant of joining it. But then it's not because religion is bad or anything. It's just because I felt I did not understand the purpose of religion. Now I understand it better. So it has
Right.
its own purpose, and
Right.
religion is nothing but philosophy put into practicality in the core. Of course, what all you mentioned is also true. Not everybody has this time to kind of spend time on understanding the philosophy behind it. I think they are religion tries to put you on the path to develop some qualities to get there. So it's misinterpreted a lot and misused. That is for
No,
sure.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also, it's like you've unleashed a beast, and then you don't know how to control it. I have this little story when I think of religion. A bunch of children gather around in a weekend evening, and they tell each other ghost stories, and they try to make it as original as possible. So one of the kids who wants to really tell the best ghost story of the evening, he looks at where they are all seated, and there's this big tree. It's a neem tree
Mhm.
near the courtyard. He tells a story that every night, if a child is passing under the neem tree alone, there is a blanket ghost who jumps on them, pounces on them, puts the blanket, and vanishes them. And that's the story he says. Now, he seeded the idea into everybody's mind, and they all go home. After a few evenings, one night, that kid who told the story is returning,
Hmm.
and he's alone, and he looks at the neem tree, and
Hmm.
it messes with his mind. He's afraid.
Hmm.
He just created the story a few days back,
Hmm.
but he's afraid. He doesn't know what to do, so he screams and runs through it. And
Hmm.
this is exactly what I think what happens when we try to create a myth around something to
Hmm.
be able to govern or guide a lot of people
Hmm.
at scale. Our mind believes it, even though we know we've created it for a certain thing. Our mind doesn't
Hmm.
distinguish between what is an abstract story or a real story.
Hmm.
Everything is real for the mind.
Hmm.
So I think somehow the uncontrollable or the violent nature that some of the religious work has taken,
Hmm.
and religious work has always taken a very violent activity in the world, starting from, let's say, how German Christians started persecuting Jews,
Hmm.
and then today you have all the Jews persecuting the Muslims, the
Hmm.
Muslims persecuting somebody else
Hmm.
uh, all over the world. And the Buddhists, I mean, we're talking about Zen.
Hmm.
In Myanmar, the
Hmm.
Buddhists are the ones who are persecuting the Muslims and driving them out. So
Hmm.
it's really like the ghost that has become so real for
Yeah.
them, and
Yeah.
it's not about governance anymore. Those are dangerous aspects, I think, that religion can
Yeah.
get into.
I think like the core purpose of religion is to practice philosophy, basically practice
Yeah,
that philosophy and
yeah,
attain that greater knowledge and experience
right,
it. Again, like any human being who hasn't evolved, there's always this attachment. Mine is better than yours, all that. So in the process of proving that gets out of control like anything else, I suppose.
it does.
It happens like normally also, right? I mean, in the world, everybody's, like you mentioned, is always comparing to the others, and that's what drives them most of the time. It happens
Yeah,
to the best
and
of us
it
sometimes,
does, it
you
does.
know.
And the truth is, it's always we're comparing apples with oranges,
Yes.
because the only fair comparison you can make is how you were yesterday versus how you were today,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really how you want to be tomorrow.
Mm.
Any other comparison is really, I think, very disturbing,
Yeah.
and it is disrupting. It is
Yeah.
completely useless.
Yes. And that's because we're so like identified with everything is this mind, this is my yours,
Right.
you know, we're separating everything out.
Everything out. Correct. Yeah.
So, as long as we don't feel interconnected with everyone, as long as we don't expand that circle, we're
Right.
going to keep feeling that. I think it's really amazing journey to be in, and I'm really grateful to be in this path and not be in that traditional path of not that that is any. A lot of people are happy doing what they do, and it's up to each one of us to figure out
Right.
what gives us happiness and peace eventually, and the goal being happiness and peace, right? So if that gives
Absolutely.
you
Yeah.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. But I've come to an understanding that, this is ultimately the only path which will give you that ultimate peace. I'm sort of promoting this right now, but
Yeah.
but this is what I feel. Are you still practicing Zen Buddhism, or you're planning to explore something else?
So I mean, with time, I'm sure you also understand this. You kind of make your own variant of it, because when you internalize it, because a lot of the spiritual texts or guidance documents were written in a language which was very different from yours. So when you start internalizing things, you kind of also try to see how to fit it into your own life, into your own experience.
Hmm.
So I have a very strange variant of what I used to follow earlier.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't even know if I can put a name to it, but
Hmm.
it has definitely been built on what I think I was reading and doing at that time.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and it explains, I think, my life and the world to me a lot better
Hmm.
than what anything else in the past has been able to.
Right,
But the
right.
goal, like you said, is the same. It is
Hmm.
about feeling peace and
Right,
staying
right.
focused and in every moment feeling connected to things,
Yeah.
um, not having to accuse anybody for anything,
Yeah.
and not have to violate anybody else's freedom to
Hmm.
get what I want.
Hmm.
I think somewhere there.
That's nice. Now I can understand your language, David. when, when I initially met you, I'm like, what is it talking about? I know you were talking about, when we initially started working in D Cube, like you were talking
Right.
about having a day where we don't wear chapels to feel the earth. I remember that
Yeah. Yeah.
that you wanted to practice. And I'm like, I knew you were going somewhere, but I didn't know what what you were talking about.
Even I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying out things to see if I feel any different.
Yeah, yeah. That's
So,
that is one of the biggest reasons I'm grateful for my experience in D Cube is to meet people like you
oh yeah, absolutely. I
who,
think also, and so many other, I think
mhm,
people who are doing,
yeah,
who are experimenting with
yes,
their own lives and trying to
yeah.
see what it is, right? Yeah,
I think definitely DCube provided that for me. Before
yeah,
DCube, it was like I was not exposed to all these different people. I
right,
thought my world was very limited. And
right,
I knew only of one way of living life, which was
right,
not satisfying me, and I didn't know a way out.
right,
But DCube gave me that exposure to meet all these different kind of people and to give me that confidence that hey, you don't have to do that same thing. You
right,
just do, you can explore, it's okay to explore.
right,
That I've met amazing people, and I'm really really grateful, even though the business part was a little bit stressful at some
right.
points. But at the end of it, every time I look back, I just feel nothing but gratefulness for that journey. It was a struggle, no doubt about it,
Oh,
but
absolutely, and yeah,
it was worth it. I think struggles are worth it at the end of the day. Without that, I don't think we will explore.
that's true. I agree.
It's been a good
And
thing.
and and you're I've always thought of you as a really natural community builder. I think you, whether you did it for business or whatever, I think you're a very natural community. You're like a, what in ancient societies and tribes called a shaman.
Hmm.
A shaman is a person who I think was best connected to everybody, and thereby I
Hmm.
think was the best informed and also best place to give advice and guidance to everybody. I think you have in DQ essentially. I see you. That's how you built the business. You had the
Hmm.
ability to connect to different people, and it's interesting how you say right now. I'm grateful to DQ for giving me the opportunity to do this. It's a dissociation. It's you who have actually made DQ. You get what I'm saying? At
Mhm.
some point, Nilima actually said, I'm going to make the cube. The
Hmm.
reason why she might have started that could be very different
Hmm.
because she
Hmm.
didn't want to do the technology job anymore. She wanted to do something different. So she
Hmm.
went out and did this. She was
Hmm.
merely following a curiosity in herself to do this.
Hmm.
But then after doing that, you've become like the child who told the ghost story,
Yeah, true.
has dissociated, saying that that ghost is very scary.
True, true, very true.
Similar, so, but it's you. You
Hmm.
you chose at some point to
Hmm.
give yourself everything you have today, all
Hmm.
this knowledge, all this awareness.
Hmm.
That's how we chose at that point. But it seemed chaotic at that time, but it's connected.
Yeah, definitely. Everything is connected. Even like if I see my journey as Bluishmuse, like from the point of me starting that first doodle and deciding to name it Bluishmuse, I know like at that point I named it as a different thing, but then it evolved into a different meaning now. And like everything is connected, how it evolved. Really. I think we all create whatever we want at the end of the day.
Right.
Somehow or the other we are pulled towards making it happen the way we want it, and then hopefully we get to a place where we are okay with whatever happens. We've done the best we could and without causing any harm to anybody else, and
Right.
it just goes however it's meant to go. It's been amazing, and I would love to talk to you again, David, and just be in touch. I think it's been years we haven't spoken.
It's been years, that's true.
So I'm very interested in what you end up doing now.
Yeah, we'll definitely be in touch with you.
Thank you so much, David, for joining me and giving me some of your valuable time. I enjoyed speaking to you and just reflecting on some thoughts and just catching up with you. Thanks so much again. Thank you for listening to today's reflections. If you would like to connect with me, please visit bluishmuse.com. Until next time, namaste.